Happy spring, Augustonians. Welcome back. If you're new to our show, Lit Friday is a virtual program held on the final Friday of each month, and we feature conversations with artists and writers of the African diaspora. Tonight, we are honored to interview internationally exhibited sculptor and coffin maker Jacob Paa Joe Jr. and his assistant Laud Kutuadu. But first, let's organize our calendars. On April 9th, we have 8-time Grammy award-winning bassist, composer, and bandleader Christian McBride with us. On April 18th, we return with Intermission, the Artful Happy Hour series. On April 23rd, we have the Storytime Spotlight. On April 26th, I return for another Lit Friday featuring Maura Cheeks, author of Acts of Forgiveness. And for Soul Sessions on April 26th as well, we will have the incredible Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and producer, Maya. And now I want to introduce Jacob Paa Joe Jr. Jacob Paa Joe Jr. is the son and apprentice of Paa Joe Sr., and they both work at Paa Joe Coffin Works located in Kopobinam, Ghana. For a little more than 5 decades, Paa Joe Sr. has worked closely with local and international communities and families to design and sculpt unique and beautiful coffins that are often included in community-wide celebratory processions to honor the homegoing of the dearly departed. An in-depth process, families and communities come together to consult with Paa Joe Jr. and Sr. about the best object to honor their loved one. From pilots buried in airplanes, to the popular cocoa bean that local farmers choose, to Nike sneakers, tomatoes, you name it, the shape of the coffin sculpture is a personal insight into the interests and lifetime of the deceased. While Jacob runs the day-to-day business, he is also globetrotting and making a name for himself as a contemporary international sculptor. United States Presidents Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton have visited the Coffin Works in Ghana, and museums all over the globe continue to compete for the opportunity to display these wonderful artworks. The August Wilson African American Cultural Center is thrilled to have opened the exhibition Abebui Adekai, Proverb Boxes for a Life Well Traveled by Jacob Paa Joe Jr., which features a beautiful rooster coffin sculpture in honor of August Wilson and his personal rooster sculpture collection. Across West Africa, the rooster may refer to abundance and at other times refers to power, virility, and stability in the home. That symbolism of the rooster also continues in the African diaspora. Along with the rooster coffin dedicated to Wilson's work on diaspora and memory are small replicas of larger coffins also by Jacob Paa Joe Jr. August Wilson of War as a playwright ruminates on and highlights these important ancestral values as critical to the Black experience throughout the Americas. Come see the exhibition and join us for a screening of the documentary Paa Joe and the Lion on Thursday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. Jacob and Laud, thank you for being with us in Pittsburgh. What do you think of the city so far?
Thank you so much for having us here in Pittsburgh. And,
how is it? What do you think?
Yeah, we love the city, and there sometimes it freezes and you feel cold. Yeah, but we love the city. It's a nice city, And since this is our first time in Pittsburgh, or in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Where all have you traveled to exhibit the works? I know you've been in Europe, you've been in the United States. Could you tell us about some of your experiences showing your work like you were just in Arkansas? Your work has been shown in Paris before. What are those experiences like?
Sometimes it's good, to have collectors and the people, the public, to appreciate what you do, your art, and yes. So anytime we travel overseas to have an exhibit, we feel appreciated, and it also brings a lot of discovery to others who have never seen this coffin before. Yes. And in the United States, I think the US is one of our biggest stronghold of these fantasy coffins, or the Abebui Adekai. Yes, because it has been on permanent display or exhibited in so many art spaces, galleries, museums in the US, in almost all the states. Yes, in almost all the states.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you find that American audiences have difficulty with accepting coffin sculptures as artworks? Do you find that audiences are kind of apprehensive, or do you find that they're very excited to see the work and interact with it?
Yeah, so sometimes it is partial, sometimes they 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 love the work, but sometimes Americans also get scared of the coffins because they don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about anything related to coffins. You see, so because these coffins are elaborated, it changes their perception, about death and about coffins also. Yeah.
What are some differences between how death is dealt with in Ghana, where you're from, and how death is dealt with here in the United States that you notice?
Uh, in Ghana, people respect death and they want to give the dead a befitting burial. And because it is the belief in Ghana that you are being buried with a coffin that represents your career or what you are addicted to or the symbol of your family, believing life still continues in afterlife. So in Ghana, it becomes a celebration of life.
So what else happens walk us through the process of what a funeral event is like in Ghana from start to finish. Once the coffin is there, the family has arrived, what happens after that?
Right. So after the dead is laid in state for family and friends and people to pay their last respect, and after a few hours or few moments, the dead is being put into the coffin and it's being closed, and they proceed to the cemetery. And on the way to the cemetery, there's a procession, where we have the drummers, we have the pallbearers, we have the family members or the mourners, and just to say, they parade through the streets of the community, just to say a goodbye to every, household in the community. And by so doing, sometimes they even spin the coffin just to dispel any evil spirit that has come to prevent the way of the dead from entering into the afterlife. Yes.
And the pallbearers dance, right? I think here in the United States, we're often exposed to social media videos that show the processions and the dancing and the outfits that are worn. And could you say more about, is it the same people every time? Are there people in the community that's their job? They dance at these funerals, or is it different people from different families every time?
So different people from different towns. When someone dies, sometimes it's the decision of the family to maybe hire a professional pallbearers to carry the deceased. And sometimes it is friends or siblings or the family who carries the coffin. And everyone wants to carry the coffin because they believe that the reason of you carrying the coffin, you are paying your last respect to the dead. And that's the last thing you could do for the dead. So everyone said, no, let me carry, so you can carry a coffin to, let's say, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because it is a procession. You are walking to the cemetery, which could take let's say about 45 minutes or 30 minutes walk. And after when you carry the coffin to a certain stand, another person comes. So let's assume when I carry for 30 minutes, Lord comes to exchange me. And when after he also go back again to exchange. So we continue to do this until we get to the cemetery. And we bury this fantastic coffin in the ground and we cover it with sand.
What's the average weight of a coffin for us to get an idea of, there are 6 or 8 people carrying the coffin. What's the average weight of one?
So sometimes up let's say 180 kg or something.
Laud, how did you end up working in this profession? How did you end up becoming a coffin sculptor yourself?
Oh, it was amazing. So I was working in the cool manner. So I love being good in the artworks. So
Did you always know Paa Joe Jr. and Senior and always work with them from youth? Or
Yeah.
did you just see the experience and you said you went and you were like, I want to learn?
I learned from them. I saw this. I decided to learn from them. So I don't know. Like I got some talent from them. So I mean, amazing working with them.
And you're traveling with Paa Joe now as his assistant. So how do you feel about how audiences receive the Coffin Works? Like, how do you feel when you see people who are not experienced with the process interact with the coffins?
Oh, it's getting progress. It's getting progress, and I love the work. I want to learn more from them. So yeah, we are getting progress.
So I know that it's kind of a family affair. Your father, Paa Joe Sr., learned from his uncles,
Yeah,
and then you learned from him. Could
yeah.
you give us a family history of how this started, or a history of when these coffins started being preferred, and like how long, like how did that happen? I mean, because
Yes.
from our perspective here, we have, like this regular wooden coffins that are all pretty much shaped the same. We don't process the coffins driven in a car to the graveyard, and then people say a few things and they put the coffin down, which is the general happening. But that's a very like European process that we've inherited. So where did the tradition come from of the coffin sculptures or fantasy coffins? How did it begin?
Yeah, so before 1950, the royals were being carried in palanquins, an object or a sculpture with a throne.
Yeah.
So there was this chief who commissioned a cocoa pod fruit palanquin for an event. And unfortunately, he died before the event. So the family decided to take the throne out of the palanquin to serve as a coffin to the afterlife. So by then people were being buried, as I said, in traditional coffins. And people got in a wow. So that means we can be buried in a coffins like this that will represent maybe our career or what we love. So that was done. The palanquins were being done by a man called Wu before the 1950. So it was between 1910, 20, 30, Wu was in the palanquins. Yeah. Until 1950, when Paa Joe's uncle, Seth Kanekwe, he was also a carpenter who does roofing and furniture and other things.
Mhm.
And his grandmother yearns or desires to travel abroad, but then the Ghana International Airport was under construction. So anytime the grandmother sees the airplane moving to and fro, she loves, to travel, to sit in the airplane, one day. But unfortunately, she also couldn't, fly with an airplane, and she died. So Kanekwe got the idea from Wu's palanquin and made a coffin in the shape of an airplane for his grandmother to travel to heaven. And there, people said, no way, we must be buried in this Abebui Adekai.
Mhm.
And from there, it became more famous. Until 1960, and Paa Joe got himself trained under his uncles as an apprentice. And he went back to his uncle in Elmina to learn how to carve a boat until 1976. And he returned back again. That is Paa Joe. He returned back again to Accra to establish his own studio. And he has been doing this from 1977 until 3 to 4 years ago, and he retired. And I also learned from him from 2008 after I finished secondary school until 2016, and I graduated to become a master artist. and I have taken over the studio as his successor. Yeah.
So what does it take to become a master artist? What are the things that your apprentices have to do well in order to be considered master artists?
They should be able to learn how to draw. They should be able to learn how to carve, and they should be skillful. Yes, that's it. They should be skillful because these coffins demands skills. So when you're not skillful, you wouldn't be able, to make such a coffin. Yeah.
Laud, how is your experience moving toward becoming a master of making these fantasy coffins? How are you handling the steps? Like, where are you in your process with Jacob?
Sometimes the wood carving is very hard. So I'm still trying to get some kind of learning more about the wood carving. Yeah.
What's the hardest thing?
Best,
So go ahead.
the hardest thing in sculpture is the wood carving. Yeah, that's the hardest.
I mean, I imagine that I'm always amazed at how you all smooth the coffin into a curve. Like when you have the circular or curved place, you're able to plane it gradually. I imagine it takes a lot of patience.
Yes. Takes a lot of time.
A lot of time, a lot of patience.
Yeah.
So when you're working on commission, like how long do you usually have to prepare a coffin at home as opposed to when a museum says, we want something new? Like, is the time shorter? Do you find that it's harder to achieve the quality you achieve at home when you may have 3 months or a month to do it, as opposed to when a museum is making a demand?
Yeah, so it depends on the details. Sometimes between 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, depending on the details. Yeah, so the rooster could take more than like 6 weeks, to make. And that's the reason why we have to, that's when one person is making it. And that's the reason why Laud is here to assist me to make sure that we can finish on time.
What's the most difficult shape that you have done?
That's the slave fort and castle.
And that was tell us about that exhibition as well. Because I know the exhibition was supposed to be about the slave shipping castles, and it was supposed to be about diaspora and naming the people that went missing due to the transatlantic slave trade. How did you connect to that exhibition, and what was it like carving those castles?
Yeah, so in 2004, Claude Seaman, who died a few years ago, was a co-partner with Jack Shanaman Gallery in New York. Came to Ghana and they commissioned these slave forts castles, sculptures. So they weren't coffins, they were sculptures.
Okay.
For an upcoming exhibition in 2005, under the theme, the whole world is rotting. Yes. So these castles were far away from our studio. You have to travel like 4 hours to one location of a castle. And Paa Joe has to travel all the time but then smartphones were not common in Ghana, to go and take a photo with your phone. So he has to travel with a photographer all the time. And he has to make some sketches. And sometimes he comes back, and whilst doing the piece, he may miss a detail. And Paa Joe loves a piece to be detailed. And so because of he has missed a detail, he won't leave it that way, but he will travel back again to where the slave fort is to recapture that detail and come back again. So it was a very difficult sculptures we have ever made in the studio.
Wow. Do you find that there's competition between what museums ask of you and what your community asks of you? Like sometimes you have a tall order, such as making the slave castles, and that slows down production on families that are making orders from you?
They are the same because a family also may come with a request that may be that may be weird, you know. Yes. I was showing a photograph with Kimberly Jacobs of a coffin, a piece of coffin in a shape of a male penis. Can you hear me?
It's breaking up just a little bit. I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now.
So yes. So we got a commission in Ghana for a piece in the shape of a male penis.
I remember you telling me about that when we met, the like large penis that you made.
Yes, and this was for someone who circumcised male bones.
Okay.
So you see, looking at the international demands and the local demands, sometimes it varies, you know, and it depends, you know. So sometimes this is weird, sometimes this is, and when we were making the slave fort and castles, it was so emotional because on the site we had to go to the dungeon and see where the slaves were being kept, you know, and how they were being treated, you know, when the story were being told, you know, you will feel very bad and very emotional, you know. So that particular pieces were a very tough pieces we have ever made.
What is the community knowledge about the effect of the transatlantic slave trade on the contemporary culture?
Yes, so they are perceptional, you know, to look how the slaves, you know, the Africans were being carried away, they were being treated, you know, how some lost their lives even in the dungeon, some lost their lives on the ocean, you know, just traveled all of them to the European countries, to America and many parts of the world, you know, for the people in Ghana.
So there is like a kind of a public acknowledgement that something's missing, that maybe people there today have family members that they don't know about because they're missing.
Of course.
That's really powerful. How did Paa Joe Sr. feel about the project? What was his response?
And my father, Paa Joe, also felt the same, as I said, emotional. And he said the whites are very wicked. I think when we were in the dungeon, you know, he felt very emotional. He said these people are very wicked, you know, to treat, you know, your fellow human, you know, with the same blood, you know, wickedly, you know, trying to torture them. Yeah.
Incredible. So would you share with us what your experience at the University of Arkansas is like? Because you were there before you came to us, and we know that they were able to have a total procession. What kind of coffin did you make there? And what was the experience like working with students? Because I know you also like to work with students.
Yeah. So in my stay in Arkansas, I made a coffin in the shape of a sankofa bed.
Amazing.
Yes. And what sankofa bed is a bed that is able to turn back its head to pick any egg, you know, it lays. So the bed was moving forward and realized it has laid an egg, and it's only turned back to pick the egg and move forward. Meaning we are able, you know, to fix the mess. You may have been rich before, but you lost everything. You need to sit back. Where did I go wrong? Where did I mess up? Maybe you were not able to manage your finances well. That got you lost everything. You can reorganize yourself and move forward. Or maybe you wrote an exams, you failed the exams. Come back. Where did I made a mistake? So after you realize these, you can do your correction and resit for another exams, and you pass, and then you move forward. Obviously, it's compared to America. Let's assume it. Americans says we want President Donald back, to make America great again. It is Sankofa. So let's go back for Donald, and move forward. So like going back to peak and move forward. So that's Sankofa. So we did this, and after I made this sculpture in Arkansas, we had a procession to demonstrate the Ghanaian funeral, right, where the students participated, and the mourners, the pallbearers, the drummers, the lizards, and etc., the ancestors, and the coffin crosses a river to the afterlife. You see, one sensitive moment that took place during the procession in Arkansas, it will amaze you. It was sunny whilst having the procession. And when we go to the cemetery, like we got to like, it's not like a forest, but like a park with the trees. So we are assuming that was the cemetery. So I told them, we have come to the land of the cemetery where the dead will be buried. And lo and behold, as I said that, within less than a minute, there was a showers of rain.
Wow.
And the moment the coffin crosses the river on a bridge to the afterlife, the rain ceases. And
so
it was
when you talk about the bridge was in Arkansas, or the bridge?
Yes, in Arkansas, because there was a river. So because there was a river which was passing, was flowing. So there was a bridge. So that we had the significance that as we cross through the bridge, it's a river. The coffin is crossing a river to the afterlife. And there's a belief in Ghana that when someone dies, they crosses a river to the afterlife.
That's interesting, because in the Congo, there's also this this idea of Kalunga. Kalunga is also this concept of you passing through water or crossing a river to the afterlife. There's also something similar in terms of the Yoruba belief system as well, like spirituality as well, that you cross water. I think that that's very powerful. Could you tell us more about what the river means in the Ghanaian context spiritually?
Yes. So as I said, it is transition from the river means transition from the physical realm to the spiritual realm. So you are going to another realm and you must cross. So it's like flying to America. You need to take flight and you need to through the skies and before you get to America. So you need to move. So it's a river. Everyone, that's the belief that everyone crosses a river. So when people die, sometimes on the day of the funeral, families and friends sometimes give them like a coins. They give them money. Not too high, maybe $1, 50 cents, 25 cents. And they get, just take this one, and they tell the dead, just take this money when you get to the riverside, just pay either the captain or whoever will take you to the afterlife, and you pay them so that you'll be able to cross the river to the afterlife. Yeah.
That's a beautiful tradition. And it's also interesting because Pittsburgh has about maybe 340 bridges that help us cross back and forth across the water.
We saw that when I went a walk a walk through with Kimberly. We saw so many bridges. Yes, and we're thinking about crossing the river, with the same the river to the afterlife, just in honor of August Wilson. August Wilson crossing the river, to the afterlife. Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see it happen. So you've displayed the work internationally, and there is a difference between the coffin sculpture and just making the sculptures themselves. What's the difference between being commissioned to make a sculpture and the difference between being commissioned to make the coffin? Like, how are the two processes different? Of course, the museum will ask you to create something and you'll go through that process. But what is the process like when family come to you and they're preparing for the passing of their loved one. What does that process entail? The negotiation about what the shape will be and what the different options of how it can look like are.
Yeah, so in Ghana, the only difference is compared to the Western world, when people come to us for to commission a piece for a burial, they mostly give us sometimes they'll give you a replica of what they want, or they'll give you an image of what they want, or sometimes they can even tell you of what they want. And but when they tell you that, you have to do a little bit of research and you make a piece. When it comes to the international purposes, maybe the collector or maybe whoever is commissioning a piece will also tell you, we want to commission a piece in a shape of a Nike sneaker, a shape of basketball, a shape of maybe the White House. And they'll give you an image and you construct it. There are two differences. When it is for burial, we use a soft wood and any common materials because it's going to be buried in the ground. But when it is for international purposes, we use the hardwood and mainly most expensive materials because it's going to be on a display for a very long time. Yeah, so that is the difference.
So are the coffins, when they're made of softwood for burial, are they meant to deteriorate back into the earth over time?
Of course.
And the paint that you use for the burials, is it different from the paint that you use on for display, like for a museum?
Of course.
Could you explain the difference in the materials and the paint?
The materials, we have foreign paints like Cora and Dulux. You see, these are foreign paints which were being imported to Ghana. So when we apply these paints on a coffin, it lasts longer than using local paint like Azar, Leyland, and other stuffs. So we try. Let's assume in a Cora paint or a Dulux could cost, let's say, $90 or $100 per gallon. But the Leyland may cost, let's say, like a $40 or $50 or $30. So there's a difference. Yeah.
Okay. And so there's also like a price difference. There's a price that, of course, a large institution will pay, but the price has to be different. How is the Coffin Works surviving in the local economy?
There's a challenge, now looking at the system, the economy, and the inflations in Ghana. People sometimes even find very difficult to commission a proverbial coffin because of the cost, and they want to go for a cheaper traditional or regular coffin, because they can't afford the proverbial coffin. And because of the details, it's expensive, but not too much expensive, because in Ghana, sometimes when someone dies, friends and families can come together, they contribute and they donate and they buy a coffin. So people are able, coffins, the rich can buy, the poor can buy, everyone buys. Yeah.
And so what's the earliest in advance that people will come and say that they're kind of ready? Do people come when they're in their 40s and they say, oh, I want to commission something from you and I want it to be this? Or is it always closer to when they're in old age or closer to the end of their life?
So when people die, it is the family who decides.
Okay.
Mostly people don't come to commission. No, when the die family comes and they commission the pieces.
Could you tell us about the name? We know that in Ga, it's Abebui Adekai, and we know
Abebui means Proverbs.
Proverbs.
Yes.
So how did that name come about? Abebui, how did that come about?
Yes, because every coffin is symbolic. Yes. When I follow you to a funeral and I don't know the occupation of the deceased, and I see a camera coffin, it will tell me, so the camera, if it's a proverb, it will tell me the dead was a journalist or a photographer. So this is Abebui Proverbs. So the coffin speaks for its own yes, without any further explanation.
And
When you see vegetables or fruits at the funeral, you know he was a farmer or she was a farmer. She was a seller of fruit and vegetables. So it speaks. So they are proverbs. Yeah. So Abebui Adekai, boxes of proverbs. Yeah.
how do you feel about the phrase fantasy coffin?
Yeah, fantasy coffin, because I feel that the Western world, they bought these fantasy coffins because it was new to them, you know, and it looks very fantasy. Like a Coke, look at a Coke coffin. Look at a burger coffin, a pizza coffin, you know. Yeah, so it looks fantasy to them, you know, and elaborated, you know. Yeah. But in Ghana, people don't see it as a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Do you find that back in Ghana, sometimes that there may be like friction between people that, according to their religious practices, may want something more conservative, as opposed to people that may want a proverb coffin? Do you think that there's like a challenge? Like, is there a challenge in the communities where some people may feel like it's inappropriate on some level?
Yeah. When you go to the Christian community, the only coffin you're allowed to be buried is a Holy Bible coffin. Without the Holy Bible, you wouldn't be permitted to be buried in a lion or in a fish coffin. Their graveyard is limited, and you can't bring a huge coffin. You know, so they believe you cannot bring a huge because of the sizes of the graveyard. You know, but with the Bible, it more looks like maybe the regular, so the shape and the size, so not to be, so it is accepted. Yeah.
We know that Jimmy Carter's visited. We know that Bill Clinton has visited. Who are some other like famous people that have come to visit the Coffin Works to see your work and other things that you've done?
So many people, and so I may have forgotten some of their name, but even our past UN Secretary General Busumuru Kofi Annan, yes, he also came with a family, and they visited, and many mostly when ambassadors from the Western world, you know, are being assigned to be of Ghana, they try to come and see the studio, they visit the studio. So we have a lot of many ambassadors, you know, to America, Europe, Asia, you know, etc., you know, who have visited the studio. And I can't record their names. Yeah.
No, because it sounds like there's so many. Like every month there's just somebody new who's coming that wants to see.
Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien?
Yes, he visited the studio 2 years ago, and I made a sculpture, a replica of him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did he take it? Did he ship it back with him?
Yeah. Yes, he shipped it. So he's with him in California.
So this sounds like maybe that the work day, I mean, of course, a coffin works and people coming and making requests is emotional, right? But it also sounds like it's like a community experience. What is it like in a normal day of working? What is it like when you're in the workshop every day? What's a regular day like?
Normal, we're making pieces of coffin for the dead. So it's normal.
But as opposed to, like when we're thinking about funerary homes here, it's very quiet, it's indoors. I know a lot of people work with headphones on.
Not in Ghana. In Ghana, when someone dies, it's like a whole party. You know, there's a jam. Yes, there's a jam, you know, with the coffin, with the pallbearers, you know, and they carry the coffins and they spin, you know, they I don't know, but they celebrate, you know, they celebrate because they believe that that's their last time with the dead, you know, so you see them with all kinds of things, you know, yeah.
And they have to dance.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's coming up next for you? Where are you traveling next? What's your next commission, if you're allowed to share? Laud, are you going to go with Jacob on the next commission so you can keep learning and keep traveling?
Yes. I would love to go with him anytime he goes, everywhere he goes. I will keep learning and getting more experience from you.
So when you become a master, are you going to start your own coffin works as well?
Yes, and
I'll start it later.
You're breaking up.
I love the way.
I mean, well, it doesn't seem like, it seems like there's enough demand that there's not necessarily competition, because your father, Jacob, your father's uncles are still working and exhibiting internationally as well.
Of course.
Have you all ever had the opportunity to do something together?
Yes, it's a good question, because we are yet to have an exhibition with 3 different coffin makers.
Okay.
So from the studio of my father's uncle, Kanokw's workshop, from our workshop, and another from the workshop, an apprentice to Paa Joe, who has already established his workshop. So we are making about 3 coffins each for an upcoming exhibition in Santa Fe. I think next year or so. Yeah, Santa Fe, yes. The Museum of International Folk Art Museum.
Amazing. And how do you like feel about the idea that people may assume that there's competition between the Coffin Works businesses?
When you produce quality works, when you produce more detailed works, sometimes it's not about the pricing. Sometimes our price may be a little bit higher than other coffin makers, but we ensure we put all details to look real than other coffin makers. Sometimes other coffin makers may think that this is only going to the grave, this is only going to the ground. Let's instead of carving, let's use paint. Let's leave these, But with Paa Joe, he has to carve everything, to look real. Yeah. So sometimes it becomes competitive to other coffin makers. Yeah.
And so now I want to ask about the feeling of being an artist. Before you began exhibiting internationally with your father and now alone, how did you start to think of yourself as an artist? Did you always think of yourself as a sculptor? Or was there a point when you were like, oh, I'm also a sculptor, I'm also to be considered an artist, not just a coffin maker?
Yeah, so after my graduation in 2016, my father pronounced that he is now an artist, a master artist. Yes. So from there, I have seen myself as an artist, and I have worked on several projects, yeah.
Laud, do you consider yourself already an artist, or do you feel like you're still working on it? You're getting there.
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it.
When you think about what your aesthetic or your style would be, or what you hope it would be, what do you hope that your aesthetic or style will be like when you become a master?
I want to be more than my boss. I want to be more than my boss. I want to know more. More than my boss. So I will improve, but I will encourage people to come and learn more. Yeah, I will encourage people to come and learn. It's a very good art.
So the school as well, Jacob, tell us about the school. Tell us about the art school that you're working on.
Yeah, so in 2012, we got a vision to build an coffin museum in Ghana, to have numerous and different kinds of coffins, because this Abebui Adekai, has the lineage from Ghana. Mm-hmm. So from 2016, we amended the vision to rather have an art academy and a coffin museum. Why art academy? We try to help the community. We believe strongly that not everyone is good in academics. Others, would like to have a trade, to learn a trade, and we want to avoid a high rate of drug dealers. We want to have avoid a high rate of criminals and robbers, in a community. So when we establish this school, and the people, if you are age 15, 16, 19 years, 20 years, you can come and learn something on your own to become an artist on your own. Maybe you'll be able to gain an experience on your own. So we are not only limited to the community in Ghana, but also there are many art students abroad who are working with machinery, who was sometimes in a wood. Will be able to have a residency for them, whereby they can fly to Ghana and learn this coffin for maybe a period of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they can build coffin on their own. They will gain a new experience. So this has been a vision. So we commenced the project in 2020, and we are making progress. Now, this is our source of income. Anytime we have a commission, we try to save, let's say like 5% or 10% of the commission, and we invest this proceed into the projects. Also, and we were able to have 3 different kinds of online crowdfunding. Initially, it was just giving. We raised about $2,000. We invested. We came to fundraiser. We raised about $800. We invested, and we now came to a GoFundMe, which we are still, we still have the link, the GoFundMe link, which we have now raised about $1,844. Which we try to make a lot of progress. So my residency in Ancaster, the amount and the Chicago project, all these, some like 50% of the commission, it goes into this project, because we don't have any other source of funding for this project, and we want to finish this project in due time, because it's almost 4 years on this project, and which we are expecting about $120,000 to finish the project. Yeah, that's it.
Do either of you have any idea if you would prefer to be buried in a proverb box? And if you do you know what shape?
Yes, so it's going to be in a square form, but on the front view, we are going to have a very big lion, on the front view, whereby the glass shape will be the mark of the lion. So when you are outside, you will see a very big lion, but it is in a square shape. We are going to be in a beautiful shape.
Laud, have you thought about this yourself?
Yeah, yes.
Do you have a preferred shape or shapes that you're thinking of?
No.
No. Not. You're like, no. Let's talk about that yet. Okay, well, I think that my last question, for sure, I'm so curious. I have so many questions in my head that I could ask, but when you think about the place that you hold in your community, in your international, it's because I feel like when people think of international communities, they think about different countries or different continents, and they don't really realize that international can also mean like people that speak different languages, that live in the same region, that have different, ways of living or different ways of relating to one another. do the coffins in Africa, in West Africa, expand beyond? What's the market like throughout West Africa, as opposed to like outside of West Africa, outside of Ghana, with Europe or the United States? What's the market like? Do you get people from Nigeria? Do you get people from Togo? Do you get people from Senegal asking for these? Like, what's that kind of broader effect of your artwork?
We have only exhibited in about 4 African countries, and that is Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and South Africa. These are the only 4 countries in Africa we have exhibited. But we've never seen anyone in these countries being buried in these coffins. Yeah.
Well, here's to expanding, and let's hope it becomes a wider kind of practice that that expands beyond just the local community and becomes a wider practice. Because I think that it's a powerful tradition to be able to represent somebody's passion in their life in the object in which they're buried. And you all do beautiful artwork, and it's really an honor to be able to co-curate with Kimberly on displaying the work. And we're really honored to have you, and we're really honored that we're able to meet Laud and have him come as well and like work with you on the piece for August Wilson. And we appreciate you so much. Is there anything that you want to say before we close?
We're expecting a lot of people who lives in Pittsburgh, to come over to the opening next week, Thursday, at the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, to experience and to support. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Everybody, will see you on April 26th for Mara Cheeks discussing her book, Acts of Forgiveness. And thank you again, Laud and Jacob, for being with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.